Welcome back to the watch list. I'm Nicole Petalides. We're watching Nvidia. This GTC conference has everybody in focus on Nvidia today and yesterday and today. David Nicholson's with us, Chief Research Officer at the Futurum Group. And you've been there and we've seen the stock going back and forth, but we're getting some breakthrough commentary. How does it feel?
It's kind of overwhelming. Good to see you, Nicole. I have to say yesterday during Jensen's keynote in particular, it was fascinating to be in such a large room with sort of a concert feel, with everyone being fairly reserved because these are super educated people. This is an industrial sort of conference. This isn't a business to consumer kind of conference. And it was dawning on people that we've really reached an inflection point where everything is changing moving forward. I know there's a lot of hyperbole associated with this, but the announcements yesterday were expected, yet staggering at the same time. Today's all about partners and the partner ecosystem, which is equally as unbelievable because everyone is a partner with NVIDIA at this point. And that's exactly when you start vertically integrating your business and having these kinds of partnerships, there just doesn't seem to be anything that can stop them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just finished saying how Goldman Sachs was saying NVIDIA will ride the wave, the AI wave to $1,000. It's at 900, so 1,000 isn't that far away. We've had price targets much higher. Jensen Huang has noted about reiterating that there is a $100 trillion market of industry that can be transformed with AI. I mean, they're just this addressable market that can just keep growing and growing, right? Tell us more about that, because Kevin Hanks talked about 250 billion per year. Huge, right?
Oh yeah. We're talking about something that moves the needle on global per capita GDP. This isn't just about earnings and margins. This is about transforming. I don't want to sound like a cheerleader here, but seriously, I've been in technology for 35 years. This is fundamentally different. When you talk about reaching this sort of escape velocity with the kind of processing power that Blackwell, the new platform that was announced yesterday, will unleash on the world, you start being able to do things like create perfect digital twins, perfect virtual replicas of the physical world. So you can design and test and deliver incredibly sophisticated products without having to do a physical prototype, because the physical prototype wouldn't be as accurate as the digital twin. We've been doing some of that. We've all seen videos of car design and things like that, wind tunnel tests and all of that. But this goes beyond nuclear explosion simulation type stuff. They're talking about a digital twin for Earth to be able to predict weather on a more granular scale. It's mind-boggling. And yeah, it's hard to overestimate the effect this is going to have on global economies in the future.
Yeah, and just going back to Blackwell specifically, I mean, they're saying they expect Blackwell to be the fastest ramping product of NVIDIA ever, right? And that would be in the history, along with, Amazon, Alphabet, to the partnerships that you're talking about, Meta, Microsoft, among others, that will have Blackwell-based products available starting later this year. I mean, that's right now almost, right?
Yeah. That timing, by the way, is going to be critical when you look at the broader space for AI. And I've said this before. We've talked about this before. AI will serve to lift all semiconductor boats to one degree or another. But NVIDIA came out gently swinging on the subject of training versus inference. Not to get too technical, but inference is the stuff that the AMDs and Intels are seeking to sort of stake out their claim right now on top of. And NVIDIA came out and said, hey, we've got this thing called NIMs, little containers for doing inference stuff. And oh, you know what? You should really call it generation, not inference. In other words, it's all in their wheelhouse. So I'm trying to poke holes in this. I'm trying to figure out what are the headwinds. And the number one thing I can come up with, Nicole, is water and power. Despite Blackwell being more efficient in terms of how much energy is required to complete an individual task, the aggregate power consumption needs exceed our current ability to deliver. So if someone is trying to look at a limit to how big this can get, we're going to be limited by electricity to power these things and water to cool the data centers, which sounds crazy, but it is the reality.
And so at this point now, as someone who's sort of fully immersed in this tech world, and of course this is not just a chip company, it's more than just a chip company, as Jensen
That's
Huang
right.
said. He said it's an accelerated computing company. You follow all these names. NVIDIA, clearly a leader in your mind, I guess. I mean, you said I don't want to sound like a cheerleader. At the same
Yeah.
time, they're announcing things with potential growth that is historical. What names stand out to you in 2024? At the end of the year, what names are we going to be talking about in your mind?
So I'm still really bullish over the year long plus period of time on companies like Intel and AMD and Broadcom and Qualcomm and Supermicro and the memory manufacturers. They are all going to be lifted by this rising tide. But when we talk about the wave of AI from a hardware perspective, NVIDIA is the wave. And then outside of that, start looking at the companies, the hyperscale cloud providers where a lot of this is going to live. The AWS's, the Google Cloud Platform, GCP, Microsoft Azure, Oracle, and others. But you have to look alongside that and see that NVIDIA is cultivating their own cloud services provider partner program. And that's fascinating to watch because think of AWS in the delivery space. Were they a boon for the UPSs and the FedExes of the world, or were they disruptive in a way when they start buying their own airplanes and their own trucks? And I think the answer is yes, both. And we're going to see that. So from an investor perspective, keep an eye on the folks who will both be partnering with and competing with NVIDIA. And that's pretty much everyone in the tech sector at this point. So it's going to be a wild ride.
Right. I saw one tweet from a friend of mine saying Jensen Huang telling the media that Blackwell's chip is 30 to 40,000, costs 10 billion to develop, but when asking for clarification from the NVIDIA team, which Blackwell chip Jensen was referring to, the team didn't specify. I don't mean to get in the woods, but is that
Right.
in the weeds? But is that something that you're following?
I am, and it wasn't clear to me either. It is interesting because the concept of a GPU, remember, GPU originally was graphical process, graphics processing unit. And it was supposed to do these sort of side tasks that CPUs weren't good at. So the definition of a GPU and a chip is obviously being recast as we start to interconnect these things so quickly that two or three or a million all appear to work as one. So Blackwell isn't a chip per se, it is a platform using their terminology. You don't want to be a product, you want to be a platform. And that Blackwell board that he held up contained what you could call two Blackwell chips, and along with a Hopper 100 as a CPU. So it's hard to say. What does that mean exactly? Is that board $100,000? But let's also keep in mind that that is just the start of what their selling begins, because it's all the networking, all the interconnecting.
Yeah. Did you see George Lucas, Kendrick Lamar, Ashton Kutcher, Nas, and others?
Oh, we all had lunch together. No, I didn't. I didn't happen.
All right,
I didn't happen to catch
David
them.
Nicholson.
The hallway conversations
no,
are
I heard
always.
this.
I'm a total geek here. I'm trying to figure out like storage companies that are starting to use GPUs in their storage arrays. That's like, that's pure,
good.
by the way.
That's what we want. I'm glad you're there to do that and give us the very latest. David Nicholson, Chief Research Officer at the Futurum Group, thank you so much.